Hare Krishna. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class at Sri Sri Radha Kalachandjidam. We will begin with Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavala Bhagiri Varadhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavala Bhagiri Varadhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavala Bhagiri Varadhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavala Bhagiri Varadhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhav Jaya Radha Madhav Jaya Radha Madhav Jaya Radha Madhav Jaya Jaya Radha Kalachandji Radha Kalachandji Shri Radhe Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jai. Alright, we'll begin the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasha Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Was born in the darkest of ignorance. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Satya Deshataine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we have just begun the 6th canto, Haribol. And so, yeah, this is our 3rd class in the 6th canto, I believe. And Dustin, do you remember what the last chapter of the 6th canto was, of the 5th canto was about?
I'm trying to blank.
Hint: fire, brimstone. Starts with an H.
Narak.
Yes. The last chapter was about hell. So, Maharaj Pariksha, he hears this, and so his question, let's see if we can find it. His question, after hearing this, like many of us, after hearing something like that, would say, let's see. Okay, yeah. So he says, "O greatly fortunate and opulent Shukadev Goswami, now kindly tell me how human beings may be saved from having to enter hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains." So who here has ever entered a hellish condition in which they suffered terrible pains? So, Pariksha Maharaj is like, wow, that's really bad. How do we not do that? And so this segues into the story of Ajamil. He's our example of how to avoid the hellish planets. So we're going to read, I think we have enough time that we can read all the purports for each of these. So Srila Prabhupada will give us a nice understanding of what happens here. Can you please read the first text, Ajit Prabhu?
In the city known as Kanyakubja, there was a Brahmana named Ajamil, who married a prostitute maidservant and lost all his Brahminical qualities because of the association of that low-class woman. Purport. The fault of illicit connection with women is that it makes one lose all Brahminical qualities. In India, there is still a class of servants called Shudras, whose maidservant wives are called Shudranis. Sometimes people who are very lusty establish relationships with such maidservants and sweeping women, since in the higher statuses of society they cannot indulge in the habit of woman hunting, which is strictly prohibited by social convention. Ajamil, a qualified Brahmin youth, lost all his Brahminical qualities because of his association with a prostitute, but he was ultimately saved because he had begun the process of bhakti yoga. Therefore, in the previous verse, Shukadev Goswami spoke of the person who has only once surrendered himself at the lotus feet of the Lord, Mana Krishna Padara Vrindayo, or has just begun the bhakti yoga process. Bhakti yoga begins with Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing and chanting of Lord Vishnu's names, as in the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting is the beginning of Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declares, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nashte, Vanashte, Vanashte, Vagati Anyatam. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. The process of chanting the holy name of the Lord is always superbly effective, but it is especially effective in this age of Kali. Its practical effectiveness will now be explained by Shukadev Goswami through the history of Ajamil, who was freed from the hands of the Yamaduta simply because of chanting the holy name of Narayan. Parikshit Maharaj's original question was how to be freed from falling down into hell or into the hands of the Yamadutas. In reply, Shukadev Goswami is citing this old historical example to convince Parikshit Maharaj of the potency of Bhakti Yoga, which begins simply with the chanting of the Lord's name. All the great authorities in Bhakti Yoga recommend the devotional process beginning with the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Tannama Grahanadibihi.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, I'll just make a few comments on each verse as we go on. But we see that in these previous ages, if someone, Srila Prabhupada describes that someone was very lusty, they would have to go to, they'd have to search out someone. They'd have to go for the maidservants or the sweeping persons. But in this current age, practically everyone is very lusty. And on Saturday night, Ajay Prabhu and I and the whole Krishna house, well, almost a bunch of us in the Krishna house, we went to a Halloween block party. And so that was something. It was, in this age of Kali, it's very degraded out there, and practically everyone is being subjected to all these pains and miseries of illicit sex. And so we're seeing that the chanting of the holy name is what really saved Ajamil. His practice of bhakti is what saved him. And so we were able to give the holy name to so many people who really needed it. So it was quite nice. We could see the very, very powerful influence of the age of Kali. All right, next text, please. This is text 22, of the first chapter.
This fallen Brahmana, Ajamil, gave trouble to others by arresting them, by cheating them in gambling, by directly plundering them. This was the way he earned his livelihood and maintained his wife and children. Hare Krishna. This verse indicates how degraded one becomes simply by indulging in illicit sex with a prostitute. Illicit sex is not possible with the chaste or aristocratic woman, but only with unchaste Shudras. This more society allows prostitution and illicit sex, the more impetus it gives to cheaters, thieves, plunderers, drunkards, and gamblers. Therefore, we first advise all of our disciples in the Krishna consciousness movement to avoid illicit sex, which is the beginning of all abominable life, and which is followed by meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, one after another, of course. Of course, restraint is very difficult, but it is quite possible if one fully surrenders to Krishna. Since all these abominable habits gradually becomes distasteful for a Krishna conscious person. If illicit sex is allowed to increase in a society, however, the entire society will be condemned, for it will be full of rogues, thieves, cheaters, and so forth.
Yeah, all right. And yeah, I'd like to kind of say if anyone has any comments or thoughts or questions on these verses as we go through them, please just bring it up. But yeah, we see this in our modern day society that illicit sex, it's causing quite a few problems. People are having unplanned children, and then these unplanned children are neglected, and they aren't financially ready to take care of these children, so they have to go into plundering and stealing. And yeah, this culture is kind of the beginning of what Srila Prabhupada was saying. These other things like intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. And we can simply avoid it by surrendering to Krishna. How nice is that? Yeah. Prabhupada says, of course, restraint is very difficult, but it's quite possible if one fully surrenders to Krishna, since all these abominable habits gradually become distasteful for a Krishna-conscious person. We've heard from Srila Prabhupada before that this entire material world is running under the principle of sex life, and Krishna himself says that this great ocean of material existence is basically impossible to overcome unless one surrenders unto Krishna. So, yeah, we've seen that people, they are really fried out with the material world. They're really done with everything. They're like, oh, I need to stop. Sometimes they're addicted to certain things. And really, without surrender to Krishna, it's very difficult to control the senses, because the senses are so, ravenous and crazy. So this is kind of our solution, is to surrender to Krishna. Any other thoughts on this text before we move on? Jai Prabhu?
I was also thinking, yeah, illicit sex leads to a lot of suffering, a lot of miseries. One I was thinking was STDs. Happens quite often, actually. And so that's not a lot of fun. You can actually die from it, some of them. Like, it's really bad. And then another thing is abortion. Is obviously a terrible thing. It's murder. It's said in descriptions you have to go through that yourself if you do that. And I have personal experience. Somebody really close to me had to go through that, and she's just like traumatized. Like, I don't think she'll ever get over it. So yeah, it's really a slippery slope that leads to a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
But most people in society don't even think it's possible to get over it. They think, hey, it's natural. It's like, I have to eat, I have to sleep, I have to have sex, like, or I have to at least, like, release the energy or whatever. But we see in Krishna consciousness is the only way, that we can actually overcome it. It's almost like a miracle for people to even think that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like the beginning of so much suffering, so much. That's really where so many, young people's suffering is just from all these traumatic relationships that they get into with no guidance, with no higher principles involved. So maybe we can pass the mic around and keep reading.
My dear king, while he thus spent his time in abominable sinful activities to maintain his family of many sons, 88 years of his life passed by.
Next text.
That old man Ajamil had 10 sons, of whom the youngest was a baby named Narayan. Since Narayan was the youngest of all the sons, he was naturally very dear to both his father and his mother.
Report, please.
The word Pravayasha indicates Ajamil's sinfulness because although he was 88 years old, he had a very young child. According to Vedic culture, one should leave home as soon as he has reached 50 years of age. One should not live at home and go on producing children. Sex life is allowed for 25 years, between the ages of 25 and 45, or at the most 50. After that, one should give up the habit of sex life and should leave home as a vanaprastha and then properly take sannyas. Ajamil, however, because of his association with a prostitute, lost all Brahminical culture and became most sinful, even in his so-called household life.
Yeah. 88 years old. It's pretty old. But yeah, people are, that's the Vedic system, is that it's kind of divided into 4 chunks. So 5 years old to 25 is student life, brahmacharya life, and 25 through 45 or 50 is household life, and then vanapras, and then sannyas. We do see though that it's not so black and white. For example, it's not like exactly everyone has to fit into these boxes per se. Because for a devotee, everything is bhakti, everything is devotional service. So some devotees, like we saw in Srila Prabhupada's time, they took sannyas very young. Some devotees, they stay in the Grahastha ashram until the end of their life. And, their Grahastha ashram is not what we call a so-called household life. It's Krishna conscious. Some choose to stay brahmachari their whole life. But generally, this is the system. And that way, it's designed to help us easily go back to Godhead. And actually, human beings are naturally attracted to these different lifestyles as they get older. We're not supposed to have, people 88 years old, being cashiers at a Walmart or something, because they're supposed to be retired by then. They're supposed to be able to focus on themselves. But society is pretty upside down right now. Next text, please.
Because of the child's broken language and awkward movements, old Ajamil was very much attached to him. He always took care of the child and enjoyed the child's activities. Here is clearly mentioned that the child Narayan was so young that he could not even speak or walk properly. Since the old man was very attached to the child, he enjoyed the child's activities. And because the child's name was Narayan, the old man always chanted the holy name of Narayana. Although he was referring to the small child and not to the original Narayana, the name of Narayana is so powerful that even by chanting his son's name, he was becoming purified. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore declared that if one's mind is somehow or other attracted by the holy name of Krishna, tasmat kena payena mana Krishna niveshayat, one is on the path of liberation. It is customary in Hindu society for parents to give their children names like Krishnadas, Govindadas, Narayanadas, and Vrindavan Das. Thus they chant the names Krishna, Govinda, Narayan, and Vrindavan and get the chance to be purified.
Jai. Narayan. Devo. This story of Ajamil is a Vaishnava favorite because it's so encouraging for us that we see that, like Srila Rupa Goswami is saying, if one's mind is somehow or other attached to the holy name of Krishna, one is on the path of liberation. I was hearing from one of my teachers, one of his students was saying, I have this young child and I have my work and there's so many things going on and I'm not able to read for an hour every day, and I feel so fallen, and I feel like I'm not making any progress. And he said, if you're simply chanting your rounds, then you're advancing faster than you can even realize. And that's it's very encouraging for us to hear. Srila Rupa Goswami, he says, I can't remember the Sanskrit, but it's in relation to this verse. It's actually this tasmat kenapya upadena mana Krishna niveshayat. He says that first gain an attraction or a taste for chanting, and then the other rules and regulations will follow. And that's how we can apply our preaching as well, is that just first come in contact with the holy names somehow. They don't have to understand all 12 cantos, and don't eat with your left hand, and shoes on this way, and simply getting an attraction for the holy name of Krishna is the most important thing. And we can see how powerful it was. In the next verse, we're going to see what was the effect of Ajamil's chanting the name Narayan. So we can read this next text. Maybe someone would like to read Gokulananda Prabhu.
When Ajamil chewed food and ate it, he called the child to chew and eat. And when he drank, he called the child to drink also, always engaged in taking care of the child and calling his name Narayan. Ajamil could not understand that his own time was now exhausted and that death was upon him.
Purport.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is kind to the conditioned soul. Although this man completely forgot Narayan, he was calling his child, saying, Narayan, please come eat this food. Narayan, please come drink this milk. Somehow or other, therefore, he was attached to the name Narayan. This is called Ajnata Sukruti. Although calling for his son, he was unknowingly chanting the name of Narayan. The holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so transcendently powerful that his chanting was being counted and recorded.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes. So this is where we understand Agyata Sukriti from. And that means unknowing devotional service, unknowing pious activities. And this is kind of what we see on Harinam, is that people don't know what they're saying. They've completely forgot Krishna or Narayan, but still their chanting is it's being counted and recorded. The holy name is so powerful. Let me think. Yeah, how merciful Krishna is, that he's just, even if someone's not referring to him directly, but they're saying his name, he's so happy to give himself to him. We'll hear in the next verse a little more on this. And I think this is our focus verse, so. Saivam Vartmana Saivam Vartamano Gyo Mrityu Kala Upastite Mritim Chakaratanaye Vale Narayana Vaye Saivam Vartamano Gyo Mrityu Kala Upastite Vale Narayana Havye Matim Chakaratanaye Vale Narayana Vaye. Please chant. Saivam Vartamano Gyo Mrityu Kala Upastite Matim Chakaratanaye Bale Narayana Yave. Yukala. Bale Narayana Vaye. Yo. Asite. Naye. Avaye. Anyone else? Saeva Vartamanogyo. Asite. Chakatanaye. Ale Narayana Vaye. Synonyms altogether. Sa, that Ajamila. Evam, thus. Vartmana, living. Agya, foolish. Mrityu, kale, when the time of death. Upastite, arrived. Matim chakara, concentrated his mind. Tanaye, on his own son. Bale, the child. Narayana, avaye, whose name was Narayan. Translation. When the time of death arrived for the foolish Jamil, he began thinking exclusively of his son Narayan. Purport. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami says, Etavan Sankhya Yoga Vyam Swadharma Parinishtaya Jnana Labha Parapungsam Ante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by acquirement of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of one's occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life, somehow or other. Ajamil consciously or unconsciously chanted the name of Narayan at the time of death. Ante Narayana Smriti. And therefore he became all perfect simply by concentrating his mind on the name of Narayan. It may also be concluded that Ajamil, who was the son of a Brahmana, was accustomed to worshipping Narayan in his youth, because in every Brahmana's house there is worship of the Narayan Shila. This system is still present in India. In a rigid Brahmana's house there is Narayan Seva, worship of Narayan. Therefore, although contaminated, Ajamil was calling for his son by concentrating his mind on the holy name of Narayan. He remembered the Narayan he had very faithfully worshipped in his youth. In this regard, Srila Sridhar Swami expressed his verdict as follows: Etach cha tad upalanadi Sri Narayana namo charana mahatmyena tad bhakti evadbhu iti siddhanta tapo payo itvenapi drashtavyam. According to the Bhakti Siddhanta, it is to be analyzed that because Ajamil constantly chanted his son's name Narayan, he was elevated to the platform of bhakti, although he did not know it. Similarly, Srila Veera Raghavacharya gives this opinion. Evam vartmanaha sadvija mrityu kale upasite satyagyo narayanakye putra eva matim chakara matim asaktam akarod ityarta. Although at the time of death he was chanting the name of his son, he nevertheless concentrated his mind upon the holy name of Narayan. Srila Vijaya Dvaja Tirtha gives a similar opinion. I'm gonna skip over that. Sorry. Directly or indirectly, Ajamil factually remembered Narayan at the time of death. Ante Narayana Smriti. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, yeah, we are seeing here that Ajamil, he had given his youth to worshipping Narayan. And yeah, right now we're doing bhakti, we're doing devotional service. And so we're creating these impressions in our mind. We're creating these samskaras. And yeah, we're doing more than we can even realize. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that after having once tasted the nectar of the Lord's lotus feet, one can never forget them, never forget that taste of Krishna consciousness. So yeah, similarly at Krishna House, we're trying to provide people an experience of bhakti. We're trying to give them a bhakti boost, and so they'll take what they like and then they'll go back into their normal life, some of them. But they'll always be able to carry that with them. They'll always be able to carry that memory of, oh, I remember when I was surrendered to Krishna, or when I, yeah, or they may still be surrendered to Krishna. And I remember when, my whole life was just living in the temple. My whole life was just temple life. And so these strong impressions, they'll come when we need them the most. We shouldn't, just kind of throw caution to the wind and just say, oh, I gave my 3 weeks in the ashram, or I gave my 3 weeks coming to morning program, or things like that. Now I can just do whatever. But yeah, we can see how Krishna, he's really taking care of the devotee. He's really finding any way to bring the devotee back to him as fast as possible. And yeah, Ajamil, imagine this, he was committing so many sinful activities. He was, doing so many things, but he became all perfect simply by concentrating his mind on the name of Narayan. So, yeah, this can be so encouraging for us. We shouldn't compare ourselves to others, but if we're somehow able to avoid these sinful activities, imagine how much advancement we're able to make from chanting. Especially a few purports ago, Srila Prabhupada made this point that in the Kali Yuga, this chanting is even more effective. It's even more merciful because of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So, yeah, we can only imagine the effect that our chanting has on ourselves and on others. Jamil, he's unconsciously chanting the name of Narayan. And so, if we're even trying to chant consciously, then we have so much benefit. We have 2 more texts, so we'll just quickly go through them, and then we can have some discussion. Oh, 2 texts in one, so it's just one more text.
Ajamil then saw 3 awkward persons with deformed bodily features, fierce, twisted faces, and hair standing erect on their bodies. With ropes in their hands, they had come to take him away to the abode of Yamaraj. When he saw them, he was extremely bewildered, and because of his attachment to his child, who was playing a short distance away, Ajamil began to call him loudly by his name. Thus, with tears in his eyes, he somehow or other chanted the holy name of Narayan. Purport: a person who performs sinful activities performs them with his body, mind, and words. Therefore, 3 order carriers from Yamaraj came to take Ajamil to Yamaraj's abode. Fortunately, even though he was referring to his son, Ajamil chanted the 4 syllables of the Harinam Narayan, and therefore the order carriers of Narayan, the Vishnu Dutas, also immediately arrived there. Because Ajamil was extremely afraid of the ropes of Yamaraj, he chanted the Lord's name with tearful eyes. Actually, however, he never meant to chant the holy name of Narayan. He meant to call his son.
Jai. Yeah. This just reminded me of I'm sure everyone has experienced this, but you're in the car and there's perhaps a close call and say, oh, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I remember I was in the car with a devotee, and we were going to pick someone up from the airport, and he was just like driving like we were on this ramp at the DFW airport. You know how it like goes in the air and it turns and curves and stuff. And he kind of just like spaced out for a second, and he almost went off the edge. And I was like, Krishna, Krishna. But yeah, it's important to condition ourselves in this way because see the benefit. You know, he was chanting, and even if it was in fear, still, the Vishnu Dutas came to protect him. Yeah. So this is kind of it's interesting, these texts, they kind of summarize Ajamil's life, but in the next chapter, we're going to see an in-depth study of, you know, all the details regarding Ajamil's life. And it's 8:18, so we can open up for any discussion points or anything we found interesting, anything we liked, or any questions.
Thank you, Prabhu. I have a question. So there in one of the purports it said, or in the verses said, the holy name is being counted and recorded. So I wanted to understand that a little bit more, because when we're chanting the 10 offenses, we say it's not for any karma kanda, you know, and then we also say that, you know, even once if we chant with faith or with sincerity, that is what really matters. So then who is recording and why? Like, it's not karma. So what is the purpose of that recording?
Yeah, if any other devotees have any thoughts too, then they can share. Gokulanandapu.
This is my understanding. I'd like to just share. So as 6 Goswamis also say, right? Sankhya Gana.
Sankhya Purvaka.
Sankhya Purva. So the verse that comes to my mind is from Kali Santarana Upanishad, where Lord Brahma himself, you know, after reciting that famous verse, after going through Nata Partaropaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Iti Shodashakam Nam, Kali Kalmashanashanam. Nata Parataropaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. After going through all of the Vedas, I do not see any other means other than chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra for this day and age of Kali. Then he goes on to say further. So there, I don't remember the exact words, but he talks about the exact number, and he proclaims anyone who chants those many numbers of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is sure to be delivered, and he's sure to go back to Goloka Vrindavan. That's the verse. So when I calculated, a few of the devotees, you know, we did research and then we calculated. So it comes to around 10 years or so if you chant 64 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And if you chant 16 rounds, then multiplied by 4, it takes about 40 years on an average. So within one life it is possible if we are destined to live for 40 years. So that is the importance of the count.
Srila Prabhupada has this quote where I can't remember exactly, but my one of my teachers, he recalls how a devotee asked how long does it take to purify yourself, and you know, Srila Prabhupada had many answers for this question. He said 1 moment, and then another time he said something around 40 or 50 years to kind of.
And if you see Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also, he went in seclusion chanting the holy names, took about similar period of time, right?
Yeah.
10 years or so.
Jai. I was thinking too, yeah, that's an amazing answer. That's very mathematical. But also Krishna, he might not be tallying every name, but he's, you know, he's keeping in mind that this person's trying. He's, you know, he's not letting anything go unappreciated.
And regarding who is recording, as we all know, right, there are the sun, moon, and all those personalities mentioned who are recording everything. So But the super duper computer is within us, which is the super soul, none other than himself. So he's recording everything, right? Everything is being recorded. So along with the quality, I always say quantity. There is one verse in Padma Purana says, although chanted inattentively and with offenses, clearly it is mentioned there, one still achieves the same. That is the glory of the holy name. So along with the quality, quantity is also important.
Jai.
Also, I would like to share one mystical incident that happened in my life. This was 28 years ago, when I was very a neophyte, as I am still, but so to say, technically speaking, when I came to ISKCON, and I was so much excited, to read Bhagavad Gita. So this was in the place where I was working. We're living in the guest room. Long story short, so I used to read Bhagavad Gita in the evening after coming back from work, and I was sitting in my rocking chair. I was going through this 8-5 Antakali, at the time of, death, quitting the body. Anyone who remembers Krishna will surely attend him. So as I was going through the verse, through the window, suddenly a pigeon swoops in and he lands in my lap. This has never ever happened before. No pigeon has ever touched me. So this pigeon, out of blue, out of nothing, just comes and lands in my lap. And there is Bhagavad Gita. He's being touched by the holy book of Bhagavad Gita. And he's gasping for his death. Okay. And I'm excited to go through this verse. At the same time, I see this, living entity in my lap quitting his body. So I gently picked the pigeon, reached out to my closet, and those days I used to keep Ganges water. So I took off the Ganges water. I chanted Hare Krishna Mahamantra once, put one drop in its beak, and then second time I chanted, I put another drop in its beak. And as I said third time Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and you won't believe, I am right in front of the deities here, I won't lie, I swear. This happened, and this was like a movie. In movies only such things happen, right? So third time I chanted, as I put the drop of water, Ganges water in the beak, it just laid his head down and passed away. And my roommates were watching this incident. So this happened, and one of my senior brothers, Govinda Prabhu, he commented, in next Kalpa, when Vyasadeva will be writing the scriptures, probably this will be noted down.
Jai. Wow. So nice. All right. Any other thoughts on this section of Ajamil?
I was thinking also, you said even though he was calling out the name Narayan in fear, Narayan still protected him. But I was thinking that calling out to the Lord in fear can be very much a qualification, in the sense that it indicates a sense of dependence, like I'm literally like hopeless without you. Like I literally like I'm completely surrendered, like I'm giving up, like like a young child with his father who is like, the child was trying to be like independent and like trying to be like, I don't need you, dad, and like getting into all kinds of nonsense, and then the son just goes back to the father just crying and just be like I'm scared, like take me under your shelter. And what does the father does? The father takes him in and takes care of him. So I think that was my thoughts about that.
Jai. Yeah. I was thinking like there's this quote that everyone's a theist until the plane starts to crash. And it's true that naturally we have this tendency to call out to God in fear. But it's also something to kind of train ourselves in. I was kind of looking at our program here, and I was like, wow, like there's a lot of Hare Krishna in our day. And like wake up, see the deities, chant Guru Vashakam, and then we do Hare Krishna. And then, just there's like so many hours of our day are filled with Hare Krishna. Then we do 2 hours of japa, and that's, you know, a lot of chanting Hare Krishna, and then there's the Darshanarti, Guru Puja, and more Hare Krishna, Jai Radha Madhava, more Hare Krishna. And then even during service, we had someone was playing kirtan the whole cut up, and that's another like 4 hours of Hare Krishna. I was thinking, like, for a new person, this must be a lot of chanting Hare Krishna. That's practically all you do now with your life. But yeah, and then the evening we have perhaps an outreach program, and then that's another, you know, hour and a half of chanting Hare Krishna. So basically the whole day is just chanting Hare Krishna. And it programs your brain that, you know, like certain words, like, you know, if someone's like scared to go, ah, they kind of makes this gibberish, because like that's what they're hearing all day is like this song and that ad and blah, 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 and it all jumbles up so that when the car is crashing, you go, blah, 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 you know, you make some like noise. But when you're just like chanting Hare Krishna all day, what comes out is just Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. It's like programmed into your brain, and so it's nice that we're so fortunate that we can be around devotees who are always saying, "Oh, Hare Krishna." We can chant Hare Krishna with each other. All right, we got 1 more minute. If anyone has any final reflections, Mishra Bhagavan Prabhu.
I met a lot of people who chanted Hare Krishna over the years, but they don't want to chant anymore. One time I ran into a god brother of mine. I said, Haribol Choda, how are you doing? He said, the name's Greg. I'm all done with that scene. I guess meaning being a devotee. Or I ran into a god sister of mine in Whole Foods and asked her if she was coming to the temple, and she said that, well, Hare Krishna was just a phase she went through as a child.
Mm-hmm.
So how does it says that there's no loss or diminution, that once somebody starts the bhakti yoga, then they're guaranteed success. But what if they don't want success? They don't have any intention of doing any more bhakti yoga. Krishna says he never forces them, so how is it that he says that they'll do more?
Yeah, it's kind of like the story of Ajamil. He also had a childhood phase where he was serving Narayan so nicely, and so they don't realize it, but you can't really ever escape, you know. You can't get out, and somehow or other they're going to, it's too late, you know. They're going to end up at Krishna's lotus feet someday, and these memories that they had, they will come back to them in some way at some point. And that itself purifies them. And what to speak of if they remember at the time of death, they're remembering. That'll give them a very good opportunity in their next life to pick up where they left off. I recalled someone had quoted Srila Prabhupada saying, you know, in the end they will all come back. So it can be reassuring to think that way, that, you know, there is no loss. You know, we shouldn't be exactly fruitive, but we're happy for any slight progress someone has made, even if they only chanted one time. You know, sometimes as preachers we can be like, okay, I want this person to like chant this many rounds and then get initiated, and you know, and I want them to live a whole life, and they have like, you know, their kids are in Gurukul, and then they take sannyas at 50. We can have a whole mapped out chart. But really, if we're just happy that they even chanted one time, or we're just happy that they, you know, they came to one program, and if they do more, then it's like, wow, that's so great. But if we get disappointed that, oh, this person went away, and oh, that's so sad, and that, you know, they're never gonna get another chance or anything like that. You know, people's devotional lifelines look very different from each other. Some people it's like this, and it's like somehow very smooth and steady, but there might be something that we don't see in their past lives. Or other people it's like they go super strong, super fast, and they disappear, and it's like, where'd they go? And then it could be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and then they're right back where they were, and they keep going. Or it could be the next lifetime, it could be the next lifetime. But yeah, we're all heading back. Bukulananda Prabhu. There's the microphone right there. I don't think the mic is on.
There could be several facets to this, like one may not be at the stage of Nishta, so on and so forth. But another thing that prominently comes to my mind is about the offenses. And I just recollected one time Gauranga Prabhu had quoted Jiva Goswami, I think from Krishna Sandarbha or something. I don't remember the words, to be honest with you, but he summarized the words and said, there is a specific number given by Jiva Goswami. Let's say if somebody commits 500, Krishna consciousness is a science and everything is scientific. This is what he said. And he said, if 500 namaparat, for example, committed, then you start chanting inattentively. Then still if you don't correct yourself or rectify yourself, then 1,000, and then one tends to commit Vaishnava Prad. And further, he goes on to say, if let's say 5,000 or something, number has been given there. So 5,000, let's say for example, then somebody breaks the regulative principles. And then 10,000 or something, then one gives up Krishna consciousness altogether. Jiva Goswami talks about those numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something. Gotta be careful.
I'm trying to get that verse for last almost few days. I've been asking many devotees.
Yeah, so it's interesting how in Krishna consciousness we have to find this balance where it's like there's so much of Krishna's mercy, like we see with the Jamil, but then there's also we have to endeavor. We have to keep endeavoring. We can't use excuses or expect. The Nectar Devotion calls it an honorary degree. So sometimes people they've never went to college, but the university just awards them with this degree for doing something great. And similarly, Krishna, he'll sometimes, like Lord Chaitanya will sometimes just walk up to someone, give them a hug, and then they have Krishna Prema, and then they're super ecstatic. Or sometimes Krishna will do things like that. And that's wonderful, that's amazing, but we can't really count on it. We can't really put all our eggs in that basket. We have to try. Yeah. And yeah, just another thing I was thinking about was like, Srila Prabhupada says, don't be surprised who leaves, be surprised who stays. Because it's really a miracle that anyone can chant Hare Krishna regularly. We think about how much mud there is, how much conditioning we have. And the fact that we can just meet someone on the street and they can chant Hare Krishna is like, you know, it's amazing. And if they go, it's like, okay, well, you know, it's almost expected that perhaps there's more progress to be made, there's more work to be done before they're ready to fully dive in. But we can always just be shocked about how Krishna works these miracles, by how Krishna is so accessible, how Krishna is so merciful. And those who fall away, we can just be happy ourselves that Krishna has kept us close and pray, Krishna, you know, please never let me tally up my offenses to the point where I get the boot. Yeah, that was something that helped me. I was distributing books at this one fair, and no one was taking books, and the whole place was filled with smoke from people smoking, and I was just getting really fried out. And then I just like looked in my heart, and I tried to find a place where I was just like, you know, whatever happens, whatever anyone says, at least I have Krishna, at least I have this temple here, at least I have Krishna Balaram. And that's really, you know, preaching is for our own benefit for the most part. We can just be grateful that, you know, even if everyone else in the whole world thinks we're crazy, even if 99.999% of the planet says that we've lost our mind, you know, at least Yeah, at least Krishna still is there. At least we have Vrindavan. At least we have Krishna Balaram that we can take shelter of. And anyone else who joins the 0.0001%, woohoo! But we're okay. We don't need the public's validation. We don't need we don't need any validation from anyone but Krishna. So yeah. Yeah, sure.
So I just remembered one of my senior god brothers, he shared on this particular episode. He said, Bhagavatam, you see incident like this, Ajamila. Sometimes we question ourselves, why is it not happening nowadays? I don't see so many such examples. So he said, just like on the highways we see big hoardings, sale, sale, sale. But then at the bottom there is asterisk, which says conditions apply. So similarly, there are conditions that apply, and that's how Lord Chaitanya also said in Shikshashtakam, Nam Nam Kari Bahudani Jasar Tatarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kala. So there are rules and regulations. So Jayadevata Swami, he commented on this when somebody asked. So he said, there are no hard and fast rules, but there are soft and slow rules. So without those rules, you can't expect that result.
Jai. All right. Well, on that note, we can all be encouraged and we can all be cautious at the same time. That we can just chant Hare Krishna and go back to Godhead. Kantar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpa Trivascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah.